Hey there, you're watching the Jessa channel on YouTube. I'm Jessa, and this is a review of the Dwarves. The Dwarves is a game based off of a book of the same name that came out in Germany and was translated to English. It is very successful from what I understand in Germany, and it is part of a 5-book series about the dwarves. I'm going to talk about the game and how my impression of it, both positive and negative, while I let you all take a look at a slideshow of the thumbnails of the game. This was a 19-episode series. As I mentioned, this is based upon a book of the same name with the title character here, Tungdil, and his story arc is moving from a very naive dwarf who was a foundling who was raised by a magus and a wizard in that world, and he has to go out in the world and ends up on an epic quest where he needs to go back to the Dwarven Kingdom, or go to the Dwarven Kingdom for the first time for him. And along the way, he meets a lot of friends and companions, and they are having to take down a big, bad, evil magus who's gone wrong, who's gone bad, who's gone rogue. And Boendil here on the right is part of two brothers, Boendil and Boendal. They are, from what I understand, fan favorites, and well, they should be. The first positive about this game is the story. They were very faithful. It was a very faithful adaptation of the book. And I actually listened to the book, the audiobook, while I played through the game. And you can see Boendal and Boendil here, and they're awesome. Every time they were in the game or on screen, or I could have them in the party, they were pretty cool. And so the watching, or I should say listening to the audiobook and playing through the game was a really pleasant experience. It's very standard Tolkien-esque fantasy fare in which you have dwarves and elves and humans and wizards, and you have all of that. But so it feels like a comforting blanket, and I actually liked that. Some people maybe complained that it was very standard. I actually enjoyed it because you know what you're getting. You can really dive into a type of world that you're used to and you enjoy, and that's how I felt about it. And there's also enough interesting difference in that, for example, there are 5 dwarven clans: the firstlings, secondlings, thirdlings, and so on. And one of those clans is evil. You also have evil dwarves as well too, that play the role of henchmen to the main big bad guy. And then also you have your orcs and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty interesting, and the characters are really fun, and some of them are quite memorable. A few of them for less positive reasons, but still, they stick with you and they're enjoyable, which leads me to the voice acting. The voice acting in this game is very good. Really well done. I loved the way they added in the narrator, who would speak the narration lines between what the characters were saying. It was really, really nice. And the whole game is basically about, it's not about being victorious in every combat necessarily. Sometimes it's just about trying to get through hordes of orcs. And they really wanted to double down on that feeling that this is a very small party, a small group of, the different, and it ends up with a number of, different people in the party. And how the party is trying to, sometimes they can't possibly kill all these orcs. It's just a matter of making their way through these orcs. And sometimes they had these well, I don't know if they were cute necessarily, but these sort of like orc piglet type things that you had to fight against too. And also each combat was kind of like a little puzzle. Like, in this combat, one combat, for example, early on, you had to kill the 3 orc trombonists who were calling for reinforcements. So whoever designed the battles, the kind of battle puzzles, they did a good job with that, because each battle was different. It wasn't just go in and kill a bunch of orcs every time. It was sometimes you had to go and hold the fort for a certain amount of time, or, you know, have a certain, just get through a certain packed environment alive, you know, that kind of thing. So that was good. That aspect of the combat, each time the combat opened up, you're like, oh, what new thing is it going to be? Which leads me to the negatives. Oh yeah, baby. The combat in this game, despite the uniqueness of the puzzles, which made it interesting, was really annoying. It's really apropos that this kind of intense music is coming up right here, because it's totally... That's basically how I felt. It was like banging my head triple time against the desk by the time I was done with this game. This is the #1 reason why the combat was really annoying. First of all, to give you some idea of the combat, it is real time with pause, where you can play up to 4 characters, and you take those 4 characters out into combat. And even though you have the whole group and the whole story, you have these 4 characters, and then you can pause, queue up special abilities or who you want them to attack, and then at that point unpause and supposedly watch the carnage play out. However, this is not what happens, because whoever was in charge of the animation as it pertains to the routing of the characters really is not in my happy book. Because if you put a character, you tell a character, say Bowendill, there with the axe in the middle of the screen there, and you say, Bowendill, I want you to go in this direction, plowing your way through these orcs, and attack this orc over here. Or attack this, you know, gigantic, you know, orc, I forget the name of him, this huge, I forget what they are called. But anyway, you know, this enemy over here. And you tell him, move here, and the first unit that he runs into, whether it be friend or foe, whether that unit is right in front of him or a little bit farther down the line, he will literally just run right into that unit. The 2 units will just sit there running against each other. There's no way for the unit to kind of go, there's another unit in front of me, I shall go around it. There was no going around things. And towards the end, there was a particular fight in which we needed to move from one side of a huge vaulted room, this ancient dwarven kingdom, to the other side. So we had to go over, you know, obstacles and that kind of stuff, but also just the whole point was not, you weren't going to be able to kill every orc. And, you know, that was plainly obvious. You were supposed to just get through them using the different abilities of your particular party. Like, for example, the Maga here, Andokai, you know, she had abilities that could, and her partner here had abilities that could move, you know, enemies out of the way. They had a lot of blow enemies out of the way moves, and that was great. However, you know, more orcs would come in, or even worse, you'd tell one party member to go in this direction and another party member to go in a sort of parallel direction, and they would just run right into each other, or just end up getting stuck on each other. So if you set up enemies, if you set up your characters to do things, your units to do things, you were supposed to be able to unpause and let it play out. But what ended up happening is that if you paid attention to one character for even a moment, the other character, you turn back and they hadn't done what you asked them to do. They would be stuck in some wall or some object or some orc or some whatever. And then they would just be sitting there running against. I actually watched 2 characters get stuck on a kind of incline, and they were trying to run up the incline at the same time. I literally just sat there while they all got, and by the way, the orcs are having a field day with this, because they're just busy just beating the heck out of your people while your people are just sitting there running up an incline, getting stuck. Super frustrating. Super frustrating. And it was so frustrating that when I think about the game, I don't think first about all the wonderful things about the game, the beautiful artwork, the wonderful set design, the quality of the graphics, the quality of the voice acting, the story itself. I just think about that battle because I played that battle over and over and over again. And I was actually playing on easy mode. Now, they added a very easy mode. And so, you might want to try that basically because that otherwise you're just going to have to frustrate yourself right through it. So that was the biggest con. Some people complain that the game was very linear. This didn't actually bother me. It is not an open world game. You move from place to place on the map, similar to how you move through Pathfinder Kingmaker. You move from dot to dot, basically. And then there would be like a story beat that happened. They also added in, just for the game, they added in a character that wasn't in the books, and she had a little quest line, and it was okay. She was okay, but it ended up being like kind of busy work. It was like a little side thing, and she didn't even end up, but I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ruin it for you, but she basically, it was okay. It was fine, but it wasn't necessary, and I think that the limited amount of time that the game had, because it's actually a relatively short game, would have been better spent on fleshing out the characters that were in the book already. Now, I know that they did it for a Kickstarter reward, and so I understand that, but honestly, it wasn't that great, to be honest. But the overall negative thing that I can really share with you about the game is not its length. According to How Long to Beat, it's about 12 to 15 hours, but you could rush right through it if you wanted to. And it also, I don't think, has a lot of replayability. You could play it through maybe one more time just to see if you like really being frustrated by the combat. But what I really wanted to say is a really big con for this game is the price. This game is standard price on Steam is $49.99, if I'm not mistaken. And it is absolutely not worth $49.99. I would say that this game, based about the amount of content that you get, is about $19.99, maybe $24.99, somewhere around there. Would be a fair price for this game. So definitely recommend do not buy this game full price. Wait till it's on a sale. And it's a great game. I think it would be a great game to play in the winter when you could like get in a bunch of blankets, because like you're dwarves, and there's like ale and there's like, axes, and like you just get in like, get a big old tankard of cider or something, and sit down and play this game, because it is worth a play. It absolutely is worth a play. However, just not with your expectations tempered as to what you get, and definitely not at full price. So that is been my playthrough of the Dwarves. I really did enjoy it despite the big cons. I particularly enjoyed it until we got up to about episode 17 and the combat was just but it was really a satisfying ending. And so I mentioned that I was going to come up with a kind of rating system. So out of, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. I've got J's instead, and I'm going to give this game, The Dwarves, a solid 1, 2, 3, 4 stars. Not 5 stars, just 4. And honestly, the combat has irritated me so much and left such a nasty taste in my mouth, particularly because the whole game is about fighting through these hordes of enemies to, succeed, and you don't even really fight the big bad guy until the very end, which of course is reasonable, but, all of the combat before the big bad guy is basically just, and when the big bad guy dies, it was kind of like, it followed the book, but it was, I don't know, they should have really fleshed that out and made that like this epic battle between you and the foe and that kind of stuff. But otherwise, it's a very good game. I do recommend it with those caveats. So this is the final episode of the Dwarves series, but that brings me to what we're playing next. What are we playing next? I'll show you. That's right, y'all. Luna the Shadow Dust. Luna the Shadow Dust. This game. This game is so good. And that is what we are playing next on the Jessa channel. And I hope you guys love that playthrough. I really do, because it's such a good game. That's all I can say on that for now. But I want to thank you so much for joining me for this last episode of The Dwarves. And let me know what you think about the Jessa Channel 3.0 and these shorter games that I can play in 20 episodes or so, less than, more so, a little bit. But and finishing up with a review of the game. So if you haven't watched the playthrough yet, you can go back knowing my thoughts on it and go back and watch it. Or if you've already watched it, you can go back and watch it again. But let me know what you think in the comments below. There is a link to the Dwarves playlist right there. And also the book, The Dwarves, there's a link in the description below. And I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed what you saw, please hit the thumbs up button below. And if you loved it, join the party and subscribe. I'll see you back here with more awesome Luna the Shadow Dust in the next episode. And thank you, as always, for watching.